Good morning. Welcome to St. Paul's Universalist Church. In the way of announcements, I have two. There will be a board meeting during coffee hour immediately following the service. So if you're a member of the board, go down, grab something to eat, get a nice warm coffee, and I think we'll meet over in the little corner there near the restroom area. Other thing I want to call to your attention is there will be regular services next Sunday. Linda Van Slyke will be in the pulpit. And then 2 Sundays from now, it is Utica's turn to host our periodic clusters. So there won't be church here, but there will be at the UU Church at 10 Higby Road in Utica. If I know Don and I will be attending, so if anyone in this area would, like a ride or something, we're happy to provide it, but there won't be services here on that day, and then we'll resume in February.
That's at 10:30.
Right, and it's at 10:30, and there's a luncheon.
A lunch and bring a dish to pass.
Right, bring a dish to pass. But they usually, they especially, they have like a whole, yeah, they're ready to feed an army. All right, let us proceed to our musical call to worship.
Short wind blow, and all the earth
open with the words of Erich Heller Wagner, who said that blessed is the fire that burns deep in the soul. It is the flame of the human spirit touched into being by the mystery of life. It is the fire of reason, the fire of compassion, the fire of community, the fire of justice, the fire of faith. It is the fire of love burning deep in the human heart, the divine glow in every life. And so I welcome you to our Sunday service, our opportunity to come together on our shared spiritual journeys. We travel from different places and we certainly look at life from many different perspectives, yet we know that here in this place, that all seekers are welcome. Pointing wand is warning me that it's running low on batteries, so if I suddenly have to run up and do slides, that's why. Anyway, it did advance to our chalice lighting frame, and I invite you to join me in the words. This flame, symbol of transformation since time began, fire our curiosity, strengthen our wills, and sustain our courage. And our opening song is number 57. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with one another and with our God. beautiful, Mark. I wish that I could have heard that last Sunday on my earphones when I was clearing the 8 inches of snow out of my driveway. I think it would have made it a little more pleasant. That was a treat. We are now at the time of the service for sharing joys, sorrows, and concerns.
Believe it or not, I don't know what's going on with my grandchildren, but Ben, our grandson, had eye surgery on Monday, and his wife didn't feel good Thursday night and ended up with an emergency appendectomy on Friday morning, and I learned that Ryan is in the hospital in the ER with pain from a kidney stone. So hopefully all 3 of them get better soon.
Julie was telling me about Ryan, and I've had kidney stones twice myself, and they're generally not life-threatening, but boy, they sure feel like they are. Ongoing prayers for peace in the Middle East. The conflict doesn't seem to be winding down anytime soon, and if anything, seems to be expanding. Pray for peace everywhere there is conflict in the world. Candle in memory of the late Martin Luther King Jr., who observe his birthday, and this year it actually will be on his birthday. For his contributions to the cause of civil rights and freedom for people everywhere. And a final candle for any joys, sorrows, or concerns that go unspoken but remain in our hearts and minds. We will now give and receive the morning offering to support the work, the wonder, and the witness of this community. invite you to now join me in a time of prayerful meditation. Holy One who dwells within us and among us, let us remember the blessings of purpose that we have received throughout our lives. When the fire of our soul burned brightly, those moments of clarity, when our direction felt in line with a greater purpose, when the doors of opportunity were easy to see and even easier to open. Those moments of clarity when even strangers felt like family. We ask this day to have that clarity of spirit come forth into our lives again with the power of a mighty wind, opening the horizons of our hearts and minds to that inner fire which burns inside us all. May we be inspired this day to sing out praise of this glorious life in a language beyond the power of speech, in a language of action, so that our lives might be a beacon of justice and love, and that the world might know hope through our story, our song, our steps taken. We ask this day that our inner fire burn brightly with compassion and courage and love, for whatever number of days ahead are still ours to claim. Let us now share a moment of silence where we listen to the wisdom of our hearts and minds. Please join me in responsive reading number 543. Winter is a reminder that even the very roots of the earth need rest, even though it's not our favorite season. Or maybe it is if you're a skier or a snowmobiler. In any case, this is Winter by Greta Crosby. Let us not wish away the winter. It is a season to itself, not simply the way to spring. The clarity and brilliance of the winter sky delight. The loom of fog softens edges, lulls the eyes and ears of the quiet, awakens by risk the unquiet. A low dark sky can snow, emblem of individuality, liberality, and aggregate power. Snow invites to contemplation and to sport. Winter dark tends to warm light, fire and candle. Winter cold to hugs and huddles. Winter want to gifts and sharing. Winter danger to visions, plans, and common endeavoring, and the zest of narrow escapes. Winter tedium to merrymaking.
Let us therefore praise the winter, rich in beauty, challenge, and prayer.
And our next song is number 55. gather inspiration for sermons and homilies from a variety of sources. This one, I think, is the first time I was inspired by something I saw on a wayside pulpit in the little tiny town of Peru, Vermont, outside of a congregational church. See what you think. It occurs to me that I have had a positive association with fire throughout my life. As a kid, one of my chores was to burn the papers in a metal barrel behind our house. And during the winter, to amuse myself, I would make snowballs and throw them at the barrel to see how they go, or how they would diminish if you threw a snowball through the flames, experimenting. And I grew up next door to my grandparents, my mother's parents. And one of my fond memories of my grandfather was how he would tend the old wood stove in their basement on cold nights. They would supplement their oil with wood. On some occasions, I would sit with him in front of that fire. We'd often sit there quietly, and every so often he would reflect on life and impart his simple country wisdom. In the summer months, we would often gather around my grandparents' outdoor fireplace, enjoying family time as we would roast marshmallows or hot dogs. In my college days, I worked as a camp counselor at a progressive Christian summer camp, and we would have a campfire every night with songs and stories. And in the time since we moved into our current home, Dawn and I have added 2 wood stoves. They not only cut down on fuel costs, but in the winter they are downright cozy. I was saying to Dawn a couple nights ago that one of the joys of this time is I would, get the wood stove going and warm the place up a little more. Anyway, there is something primal, I think, about sitting around a fire. Maybe it triggers a racial memory of our ancient ancestors who gathered around fire for survival or protection. There is a certain comfort, even a meditative state, to quietly watching a fire burn. When I first discovered Unitarian Universalism, one of the things that resonated with me was the chalice, the flaming chalice. It represented a light of truth, of warmth, and beauty. So, to connect this theme, on this cold winter day, where we are thankful that the church has heat again, so we're not actually burning logs to keep us warm, here are 3 parables to illustrate spiritual lessons around the theme of warmth and the light of a fire. The first is the parable of the dark room. Entering a very cold, dark room, you are presented with a choice. A candle, a lantern, or a wood stove. Which would you light first? The match. That's right. You would start by lighting the match. Make sure Mike's with you if you're in one of those survival things. The lesson here is that before we can kindle a fire in ourselves, we must first light the spark. Before we can kindle fire in others, we must first light the spark within ourselves. On the face of it, that may sound selfish. But if we can't light our own fire, whether it's a fire of compassion, of love, a thirst for justice, how can we possibly pass it on to others? It's sort of like when you're on an airplane and they're giving you the safety instructions before takeoff. And they tell you when the oxygen masks drop down, if that happens, to put yours on first before assisting others. Because taking care of ourselves isn't selfish because That is the first step, a necessary step, in being able to share our gifts with others. Otherwise, we deplete ourselves, we feel drained. It's kind of like trying to keep something going without being able to add any fuel to it. The next is the parable of the lonely ember. A member of a church who previously had been attending services regularly stopped going. After a few weeks, the pastor decided to visit him. It was a cold evening. The pastor found the man home alone, sitting before a blazing fire. Guessing the reason for his pastor's visit, the man welcomed him, led him to a big chair near the fireplace, and waited. The pastor made himself comfortable, but said nothing. In the grave silence, he contemplated the play of the flames around the burning logs. After several minutes, the pastor took the fire tongs, carefully picked up a brightly burning ember, and placed it to one side of the hearth, all alone. Then he sat back in his chair, still silent. The host watched all of this in quiet fascination. As the one lone ember's flame diminished, there was a momentary glow, and then its fire was no more. It was soon cold and, as they say, dead as a doornail. Not a word had been spoken since the initial greeting. But just before the pastor was ready to leave, he picked up the cold, dead ember and placed it back in the middle of the fire. It immediately began to glow once more with the light and warmth of the burning coals around it. And as the pastor reached the door to leave, his host said, "Thank you so much for your visit, and especially for the fiery sermon. I shall see you in church next Sunday." Why do we come to church? We could hold our beliefs without venturing out on a Sunday morning, especially this time of year, when it's cold. Why do we choose to be part of this community? Or our local community? Well, like the coals in the parable, we burn more strongly together than separately. If we isolate ourselves from the larger community, be it church or any other group where we find support and fellowship, we may find ourselves like the lonely ember. Our light flickers and eventually fades altogether. And we all have those moments, don't we? Moments where, for whatever reason, we feel cold and dark on the inside, lonely and separated. But the good news is that we can reignite when we rejoin the larger community. We are social creatures. And getting back to the parable, I know that certainly my light and warmth burns brighter when I engage in the fellowship that I find here. I definitely got a taste of that when we were shut down for the pandemic. And it was basically Mark and I and Dawn, and that was church basically for ever and ever. And that fellowship in turn allows me to hopefully allows you as well, to share the light and the warmth with others collectively. We shine brighter together than any of us would individually. Which leads to the last parable, the parable of the wood stove. A man had a wood stove, and he was constantly feeding it with logs. One morning, he forgot to get it going, so he had to do it in the afternoon. He found that a few coals were still hot, so he threw a few logs in along with some newspaper. The newspaper caught fire quickly, and it seemed like the logs got going pretty well too. So the man moved on and went to finish some work elsewhere in his cabin. But when he came back a few minutes later, he found that 2 of the logs had stopped burning. One of the other logs was burning, but not touching the other 2. There were still some coals going, but not enough to get the other 2 logs going. So the man stuffed some more paper in the wood stove and opened the vents so that more air could get in, and he watched it to make sure the 2 logs would start burning. And sure enough, the 2 logs lit and burned off of each other. The man left and came back about half an hour later and was able to add a few more logs, and they easily caught fire. We are like the logs in the fire. Within each of us, we have that potential to burn, to share our heat and our light of our spirit with others. But there may be times when, after catching fire, that fire dies out. Then there are some who light, but kind of like that newspaper, they keep all that light and warmth to themselves and quickly burn out. And they don't spread their fire because they feel that they can't make a difference. Or sometimes we caught on fire when we had passion, but after so long, we may now feel we have little or no flame left to share. Or maybe we are burning strong, bringing that heat and flame to the other logs, to the other people who are lacking those things at that moment. It seems to me that at different times in our lives, we have been all of these things. Sometimes we are the flame, and sometimes we are the ones in need of it. Sometimes the fire within us ebbs. Sometimes it may feel like it's gone out. But the good news is that we can reignite. We all have the fire within us. It may dip down to an ember, but it can be boosted back up. We all have the potential to share that warmth and light with others. I am reminded of this every year at the end of our candlelight service on Christmas Eve. We start with a single flame and share it with our neighbors. And as I say every year, I've gotten into the custom of saying this, we remember that it is our own flame, and it never diminishes when we share it with others. It just spreads it. And so those are 3 parables to contemplate. So you're hopefully keeping warm this week. Keep warm, share your light, and blessed be. Our last song is in the Teal Supplement, 1066. service with the words of the late theologian Friedrich Buchner. The life I touch, for good or ill, will touch another life, and in turn another, until who knows where the trembling stops, or in what far place my touch will be felt. Please join me in the words as we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this chalice flame, daring to carry forward the vision of this free faith, that freedom, reason, and justice will one day prevail in this nation and across the earth.